All right, testing, testing. We are live, or we're live now. Welcome to Chronologically Gaming. We are perpetually retro because we're playing every video game in order of release. Started playing the games all the way back in 1971, and we recently did a backlog of games. So we went back to 1971 to see even games that we missed. But we are now here, all consoles, all handhelds, all computer games, all over the world, no game left behind. The only stipulation really is mainframe video games. Those are the only ones that we don't try to showcase them all. The other one is standalone consoles. I think someone wanted me to do all the Pong consoles, but I'll do a little piece of just a tidbit of what the Pong consoles are like, but it's a lot. Greetings, Marshall. Howdy, Brad. Welcome to 1982, still in 1982. We have a lot of games to cover before we get to the end. And if you haven't noticed, I am unplugged. So this is partially the pre-show, but it's also partially the sound check to see if I'm coming in okay. Or to make sure the background isn't blowing everyone's eardrums out. If that doesn't, don't worry, these games might. Oh, it's all me, Marshall. My wife doesn't want anything to do with adding more time to organizing and cataloging video games. She's probably watching right now. I think she catches every pre-show. But all this is on, I can't really say it's all on my own because I'm using databases and research that has been done previously, and there's also lots of vloggers, bloggers, and people that have done articles on these games, and so I'm really leaning on the rest of the internet and research that's been done. That's where a lot of it comes from. But yeah, it's all me, Marshall. Hey, glad to be back, Brian. Oh, nice. Yes, and you are back for the show. We are on for real. Every show, like this episode, the prep time, oh man, it could, because I did previous time where I spent a long time getting ready for just collecting games. And so you could incorporate some of that time into that, but then for each episode to prepare, I have to find the artwork and then find all the trivia and also see where we are compared to all the other games at the time, because that's what makes this show unique. We're not just playing a game that's at a certain time. We're saying, hey, we played this, and this is kind of like these games, to give a better context. So it could take each episode, this 30-minute block, takes about an hour or 2 hours to prepare. So that's about 2 hours for the 5 days of the week. So about 10-hour prep for the week before. I may have been doing a little bit of that while we did our break last week. It's a lot. But it's so much fun. And now that we got through November, now we're at the home, well, I don't want to call it the home stretch because there's still a lot of games in December. But we're now in December 1982. Yeah, I hope so, Marshall. Thanks so much. I keep adding to it and finding more things to catalog. Like, does this video game have a continue feature? Is this video game allow you to use a certain joystick? You know, things like that. So it's been pretty fun. Thanks, Charlie. Appreciate it. Yeah, I hope to do more. I might just stick to doing the backlog stuff in the vacation time, but referencing it in the show as if we'd already done it or played it live. Because I wasn't trying to capture every single game when we originally did it. Yeah, I know there's people out there that do something similar. Like there's people that try to play every adventure game or role-playing game. I don't know of anybody else that's trying to play every video game and reference all the databases. I'd like to have it all in one place, or try to have it all in one place if I can. All right, I'm so excited. And on with the show. Hey, it's Chronologically Gaming, the only channel that's perpetually retro because we're playing every video game in order of release. We've reached another milestone, played every or seen every video game through November 1982. These are the very first video games of December 1982. And sorry, Olivia Newton-John, we're not going to get physical because we're going to play video games. So what's the very first video game released in December 1982? Well, it's pretty difficult to pin down. Some of these games might be, the tail end of November, and then we just kind of miss them. But because release dates are a little spotty, what we usually do is we say all these are the video games that were released at the beginning of December 1982. So the early December releases, and we just give them a December 1st release and then play them in alphabetical order. So our very first video game for December is Adventure 200. Let's check it out. All I have for Adventure 200 is an advertising flyer by Foilcade, which I don't think we've seen anything by them. They have Fantastic Voyage, though. I don't know if we're going to see that one later, but there's Adventure, or Adventure 200. Over 200 places to explore a machine code game using advanced data compression techniques. Very fancy. And it says 1,000 pounds in prizes. And we've seen that with a few games where if you play or get a certain thing, then you can you'll make some actual real world money. And so that's what this one is. So that's all I have for this version of the game, except we have a manual or a homemade manual. This is the 46th video game that we've seen for the BBC Micro. So we are in the United Kingdom checking out this first game. You are the head of palace security. Agents from the evil land of Grunlock, which lies to the east of the Great Ravine, have stolen some treasures and you are in disgrace. The king has told you that if you return to the palace without recovering all the treasures, you will be killed. You are dressed as a peasant and will be able to travel freely in most parts of Grunlock. It almost sounds like they're ripping off Zork here with the vernacular. If you don't arouse suspicion, a torn piece of paper was left by the thieves with these symbols. So this homebrew manual is just explaining how to load the game, and you'll be playing the game by using two-word text parsers. So it's another text adventure game. It explains our movement, what we can do here, what nouns, abbreviations, and some examples. And then we even have some hints and tips. And this one says 220 places. And I heard another reference that this has 230 places. So it's supposed to be an adventure game that has so many screens. I guess no one can really define it, at least from my original research. All right, let's go to the United Kingdom, play the brand new game on our BBC Micro. This is Adventure 200 by C.J. Combs, released at the beginning of December 1982. Oh, there you go. It has the same opening. So this is the very first time we've seen anything by C.J. Combs. It is a text adventure game. Prepare to use your brain. The 226th video game we've seen that is text only and you're adventuring. All computers right now. This is the 226th video game we've seen. This is the 66th text adventure game that we've seen in the United Kingdom. That's how many games that are at least originated from the United Kingdom. So this is the same story we read from that homebrew manual. And if we want to continue, it explains us how to play. And it's telling us the commands are like performing a puppet. We have to send in the commands to the computer and then it tells us what to do. Move around, and then we have the verbs right here. We have dig, drink, lock, unlock, light, inventory, view. Lots of verbs you can use besides just the normal movement. Oh, there we go. Take, drop, throw. Yeah, this is pretty impressive. We have some nouns that we can use too, and then abbreviations where you don't have to type the entire thing. You can just do an abbreviation like dig and drop. You can just do DI or DR. And then it has an example. Like if you want to say take lamp, you don't have to say take lamp. You can actually say TALA and it recognizes it. And we've seen that with adventure games. It's just helpful that it's right here. It's also all in game. All the instructions are all here with the tips and tricks. And if you get stuck, usually there's a help command, but I don't see help. Oh, it's just actually telling us if we get stuck what to do. Interesting. So there you go. This is going to be going against all these adventure games we've seen from the United Kingdom, like the Chateau on the Dragon 32, Adventure Quest, The Curse of Crowley Manor, Philosopher's Quest, and Castle of Riddles, just to name a few. All right, let's go. Obvious paths are north and south. You're at the east gate of the palace. A huge mountain towers to the north. What now? Let's head south. You're in a large open field between the wood and the sea. So now you'd be mapping your adventure. I'm not going to be mapping it live on the show. Just pretend you're mapping if you were playing this for the first time. You're at the top of a steep cliff path above a rocky beach. You can hear the sea. Very nice. So let's go head down. I want to go to the beach. The bottom of a steep cliff, the path of a rocky beach. Let's head east. We're on a small rocky beach. So we're just walking along the beach. Isn't that nice? You're on a small rocky beach. There is a rock pool here, and you can see fish nearby. So take some fish. Wow, we made that really easy. Usually there's a puzzle involved. All right, let's head north now. You're in a large cave entrance at the bottom of a high cliff. You can hear the sea and a small running water, and you can see a lamp. Oh, we got to have lamps. Get lamp. We're going to be lighting that soon. Oh, we have to say take. Take lamp. Oh, get lamp doesn't work. That's pretty rare. Usually you can do both. All right, now let's head south. That's very surprising. And then we're back where we were at the beach. Let's head west. Keep walking along the beach west. Let's head back up. So we got the items we needed to get. And now we're back up on top. Let's go ahead and head north now. The huge mountains there, north again. And then we're in a wide open path. A wisp of smoke rises to the east. Let's check it out and go east. Yes, Marshall, I love lamp too. You're in a small camp of the dense forest. A small fire burns here. So let's light the lamp. The lamp is now on. We're going to be using it too. Let's head west. You're in a wide path on open woods. A wisp of smoke rises to the east, kind of where we were before. And now we're at the east gate of the palace. A huge mountain towers to the north. Let's go ahead and head south again. Large open field between the wood and the sea. Head south again. They're really setting a good stage here. Not as verbose as something like by Infocom, a text adventure game, but doing okay. You're at the top of a steep cliff above the rocky beach. All right, let's head down again. You're at the bottom of a steep cliff on the rocky beach. Let's head east and east and then go north. You're in a large cave entrance at the bottom of a high cliff. You can hear the sea and hear running water. Now, remember, this is supposed to be boasting 200 screens, maybe more. So this would be a very large map that you'd have to explore. You're in a high passage. Two small streams enter from the north. Okay, so now we can head northeast. You're in a small, damp cavern. You can hear running water. All right, let's head east. I can sense the scope, something very large, like when we played Zork. You're in a maze of twisting little passages. All right, let's go south. You're in a maze of twisting... Oh, gosh. I hope I don't get lost. All right, west and east. Oh, man, this would have been... You would have been lost trying to get through. Okay, we're in a narrow, dry canyon. Let's go north. And then we made it through. So whatever the maze was, they just made a twisty maze for us to navigate out of. You can make... the way north is blocked by rubble, and you can see nearby a jug. All right, so remember the jug. That's where we left off. So that's what we're going to do with our brief taste of Adventure 200. We will not see all 200 screens here on this showcase on Chronologically Gaming, but that is a lot of... Okay, that is a lot to that game. I'm actually not going to rate this one quite yet because this game was available on other systems. The second time you would have seen this is on the brand new Sinclair ZX Spectrum. This is Adventure 200 on an even newer home computer than that one. So this one I have a different advertisement flyer, and there it is. It actually calls it Adventure 200 here by Foilcade. First time we've seen this company, but it says here over 200 places to explore. And I wonder if because there's a different number of rooms, or at least mapped out, that the different ports have more rooms or less rooms than others. So this marks the 145th time we've played a Sinclair ZX Spectrum game. The Specky already has that many out here in December 1982. And there you go. That is all of the rooms, or at least this map that I found. There's several you can find online, but holy moly, you can barely even make that out. Look how many rooms that is. That's pretty big. That's like time zone from Sierra big. And I think, is that all we have for that? Just the map? Yeah, with some examples of screenshots. So we have, we don't look at the same homebrew manual, but this one is released both by CJ Combs himself and Foilcade. So let's pop in the cassette tape and take over where we left off, playing Adventure 200. The 227th text adventure game that we've seen on Chronologically Gaming on all home computers. There is no text adventure games on any... There's no handheld text adventure games or console. text adventure games. That's it. All right, so this one I'm going to load where we left off, and there we go. We're back where we left off on the BBC Micro. I don't think anyone did this at the time, but we get to go hop from computer to computer and take over where we left off. All right, so now we can see nearby a jug where we left off before. So this is the 12th text adventure game that we've seen on the Sinclair ZX Spectrum. This is going to be competing with games like Super Spy, Adventure 1, Adventures A, B, and C, and Black Dwarf's Lair, just to name a few. All right, so we got a jug. We got to take that jug. This text just looks exactly like I'd expect from the Sinclair ZX Spectrum. The BBC Micro, most of the games had the text that we saw previously, but I just feel like that one's a little bit classier, a little sharper to play. All right, let's, after we get that jug, let's head south. We're in a narrow, dry canyon, south again. You're in a maze of twisting little passages. Uh-oh, we got to get our way out again. Let's head east, and then west, and then south, and then east. Everyone memorize how to get out of there. We're in a small, damp cavern. You can hear the water running. All right, so now we can go northwest. This is awesome. Someone even brought up to me, do you even play text adventure games since you're playing every video game? Oh, yes. Yes, we do. There's a spring here running away from the south. All right, let's go southwest. I'm already very mixed up considering how many rooms this is. You have a wide cavern. You can hear running water. Okay, let's go to the water. You're in a small cave. A small stream forks in to 2 here. You can see nearby a coin. That's awesome. All right, let's go ahead and take a drink. It just says thanks. I don't think there's any reason we have to take a drink. And then take the coin. And then let's take some water because we have that jug. Now we're ready for adventuring. All we need now is a flask, which I guess this jug might count as our flask. All right, so after that, let's head west. We're in a wide cavern, and let's go north. We're in a small chamber. Let's go up. And let's go west. We're at the top of a large pothole. Now we're at the top of a steep cliff, path above a rocky beach. You can hear the sea. Okay, so this is kind of where we ended up before. Let's go ahead and head north. See if we can find something interesting to do. And then go north again. We have a wide path, open woods, a wisp of smoke. So we've seen this place before. Let's head east. And then the small fire burns here. Let's go north. And then now we're in the dense forest, and nearby we can see an axe. Yes, take that axe. Oop. Take axe. There we go. We got it. And then let's head south. All right, so this is a massive game. So as usual, adventure games here on the show, we just do a quick taste of what it's like for your first experience with these games. Adventure 200 is daunting. It's actually pretty cool because of all the text adventure games we've seen so far, it's trying to go with more screens than usual. The only other games that could compete with this amount of size of screens would be the like Time Zone we saw by Sierra is just the only one I can think to come to mind, or Infocom Zork, but they don't try to get this much. This is a lot, so they did some trickery to make this happen. So of all these games, this one particularly is going to be available also on the Dragon 32 and the Sinclair ZX81. We're only going to see these 2 ports here, but if you want to see more of this game, there's a link I'll include down below for Ringa and Blue. They're trying to play every text adventure game or just adventure game in chronological order, and they're currently in 1982, just like our show is. So if you want to, check that one out. But otherwise, I'd say of all the adventure games you could see or play yourself right now, it's not as impressive as Infocom as far as the detail. This game's going for quantity rather than quality. So I'll still give it an above average rating of 3.5 stars of all the games you could play across all home computers just because of that. But I mean, it's kind of like our show. We go for quantity rather than quality here. I'm looking in the chat. Jeremiah's throwing out 3 stars, pretty average, and then Charlie's 3.5 too. I mean, you got to admit, that's pretty impressive they were able to push this out. Kind of reminds me of the way they got Adventure, the original on the Atari 2600, to work, having more and more screens, or Pitfall on the 2600 too. All right, there you go. Our very first game that we've seen for December 1982 was a text adventure game. Let's see what our next release is. We're next heading to the arcade to play a very obscure one. This one is Agent Super Bond. Super Bond? You mean better than Bond? Here's the advertisement flyer for Agent Super Bond. If you loved elevator action, don't miss Agent Super Bond. Oh, a conversion kit. Oh, okay. This one's the later one. Okay, so the first time you would have seen this may not have been a conversion kit. That's why we haven't seen elevator action yet. So this must be a later advertisement flyer. This one is only available in the arcade. It wasn't ported anywhere. It's the 564th video game we've seen so far in the arcade. And this one is obviously a fan game of James Bond. The only other game we've seen that references or alludes to James Bond was 007 Aquabase on the Texas Instruments home computer. So I like how they have the artwork in the front with the terrorist and the intrepid agent that's there. For controls, we have an 8-way joystick. We can hold the button or we can zap the button. That's a good point. Charlie's bringing up about the conversion kit and the dedicated cabinet, and yeah, that may be true too. These, with the conversion kits, are even harder to come by or find. You can see a lot of this is fan art, like this one, not even a real one. Then we have an example of the screenshot. The game was only sold to arcade owners as an EEPROM change for the PCB of Super Cobra or Scramble. So depending on if you want to believe that or not, that's what we're looking at here. So we're going to go to the arcade to play Agent Super Bond. This is developed by Alpha Company, published by Signatron USA at the beginning of December 1982. This is the second game we've seen by Signatron USA after Orbitron. They did kind of like a command shooter, but it's not based on Missile Command. It's a different kind of game. So this one is all about clearing a building filled with fanatical terrorists while freeing hostages. The building consists of several single-screen random rooms that need to be completed one after another. Your agent can be steered around all in 8 directions and automatically fires in the direction the character faces with a bunch of bullets that fire, but you do have to reload, which takes very, very quickly. It's also possible to freeze your movement and shoot manually in any direction that you want. The enemies include terrorists and turrets, mines, and robots with unusual shapes and sizes. They also shoot and keep spawning endlessly until the character is dead or the room is exited. It's possible to search desks and drawers and stuff by running into them. Hostages also have to be saved. Cubicles can be entered through openings and doors. And the agent has a special zap power that allows him to use dynamite and blow up walls or nearby opponents in a short radius. So you do have all this freedom to play, or to as the attract mode is going on. The game is going to end whenever the entire building is cleared. All right, so let's put a coin in and go. I don't know what imagery, what are we seeing right now? This feels like it's a ripoff. Oh, and Kun brought up Lost Tomb. Yes, definite vibes there. All right, let's put a coin in and go. So we start in room, they give us the room we're in, room number 1, and we can do instructions. The building's full of fanatical terrorists. They are armed, have to kill them by destroying the death ray robots like whirling suns. Hostages have been taken. Your mission is to free the hostages. Don't try to take prisoners. And some are more difficult than others to free hostages. You just touch them. Zap is the dynamite against the walls, and that zap's what you see down on the control panel. If you run back one-way street, go back, and then don't touch booze bottles. There's booze bottles in the game. Counter bonus achieved and free the hostages. Extra man, and then joysticks is you're going to shoot in the direction that you run, and you can hold to shoot without running. And then the zap button. Yes, Manly, I don't know what a whirling sun is either. Hey. The games are starting to talk to us. All right, here we go. I'm moving freely at the top left. Oh yeah, the character looks just like Lost Tomb, at least first impressions. And as I move around, this is strange because it's auto-firing in all directions that I move. And you look at the top left, that's my ammo, and then it has a little reload. It's kind of interesting. Why did they have a reload section? That's a little strange. So I'm just dodging bullets. I need to make my way to the exit. They are constantly going. Let me reload this way. Oh, let me hold down. There we go. So I can hold down the button and actually stand still. It's constantly bringing enemies in the room. So my first experience was death. Let's go and take this out. I see I got doors I can into different areas there. And then move to the next room. Yikes. There's a strange mass like robot character. I don't see any hostages in that room, so let's move on to the next one. And you can see you can touch the desks if you need to. Part of me feels like it's giving me vibes of a hacked or homebrew game, or not a real game. This was converted with Super Cobra in mind and scramble, and I can kind of hear the sound effects. They're very, very similar. Yeah, it feels like a mod, right? Not even a real game. Well, we did find information to back this up that it was a modified EEPROM, at least a little bit of data. All right, let's do an explosion. Blow that wall away. It kills the enemies off, too. That's a nice touch. If you look in the top right, it shows a little lightning bolt. That's how many zaps I have left. Something else, too. Let's put a coin in and see where it takes over after that. This is this is what we would consider a multi-directional shooter. This is the 144th multi-directional shooter that we played so far on Chronologically Gaming, and the 44th that we've seen so far in the arcades. Yeah, this is nuts. This is crazy how many enemies there are. And the flip screen mode of progressively moving from one area to another as if you're completing an objective or goal is a nice touch. I have to remember to use that hold button so I can stand still, because I'm auto-firing and then I have to reload. There we go, that's better. Let's pick up this item next. So the flip screen is what sets this apart from the other multi-directional shooters we played. I mean, when I think multi-directional shooter, I'm thinking Asteroids is a really popular one. Great chance. Zap, super bonus for you. 30 zaps for one. What? You can put in more money and use more zaps? That sounds like a cheat. Look at that. That's pay to. That's more than pay to play. That's something new. I can't believe that. Yeah, the color scheme just makes me think of it as just a hack thing, but since we're able to move from room to room and it's giving you the sense that you're exploring something bigger than that, there's a few games that we've seen that have done that, multi-directional shooters. Berserk was one of the first ones that you were moving from room to room, and then Borg on the Apple II was another one we saw. Berserk was another one. Crazy Shootout, also same idea. Robot Attack. Thief on the Apple II did this too. Space Dungeon, Escape, that was on the Arcadia 2001, also did this. Marauder, that we saw both on home computers and consoles, did it. Seamus was a really, really popular one, you know, moving from room to room. Seeing this as an arcade game is a little bit special. There's not too many arcade games that do this. And then Frenzy, which is the sequel to Berserk, we've also seen. That's also doing that. And then in the chat, people already brought up Lost Tomb. I consider this a variant of Lost Tomb, like actually trying to... Adios, muchachos. Yes, and Curtis brought up paying for zaps. Yeah. What in the world? I've never seen any game do that. We can pay for more bonus. I'm not even using my zaps. I have 51 of them. I might as well just destroy everything. That is other level. So you can see I'm at the end now. I have to make my way to the other side. Let's just zap. Yeah, zap our way and blow everybody up. That means I have to make my way back to the other side, right? Yeah, there we go. And you do get power-ups. If you look at the top, not necessarily power-ups, but it's changing up the amount of ammo I have. Like, you notice whenever I pick up certain things from the desks, I'm getting much more ammo before I have to reload, which is another good point. And it is allowing us to continue where we left off. So not only are we continuing or putting money in to add more zaps, which is so rare, but we're also putting money in to continue the game right where we left off. And to tell you the truth, this game is... It feels like we're playing the movie version of Die Hard before Die Hard comes out, because we are trying to kill hostages in a building, you know, a really tall skyscraper building. But this is 1982. There's no such thing as Die Hard right now. I wonder if they got the inspiration from this. And then in the chat, I see a 2.5 and a 3-star of all the games you could play for everything in the arcade. And there's something about Agent Superbond that is intriguing because it's a little different, but then there's also something that's pulling me back. Like Agent Superbond makes me feel like I'm playing something cheap and ripped off that's or not totally complete. So I'm a little all over the board. I got a 2.5 and 3-star I see in the chat for everything you could play up to this point in the arcade. Curtis is saying 3 stars. Yeah, and I hate paying for special items too. Jeremiah is saying 3.5 stars. Yeah. And that's true. We did die really easy, but we could have used our zaps if we paid enough money for it. I'm willing to say 3.5 stars. Of all the games you could play in the arcade, this one is an above average arcade game, just by a little bit. I don't want to go any higher than that, but I couldn't call this average just because it's doing a few things different, but it is totally ripping off Lost Tomb. Marshall's going way low. I got a 2-star, so pretty divisive for the live chat that I see tonight. For all the games you could play in the arcade, I'll still say 3.5 stars. Agent Superbond is kind of going a little all over the place, but I'll still say an above average arcade game for everything you could play up to this point. Not nearly up to all the classic or golden age arcade games we've seen so far. Yeah, I'm thinking 3 or 3.5, somewhere around there. All right, after that game, let's see what our next game is. After a wacky time in the arcade, our next release is back in the United Kingdom on the Sinclair ZX Spectrum. This is Airliner. Let's check it out together, starting with the box. Or the cassette case. Airliner. This one is the 146th game we've seen on the Specky so far. And this is not the first release in December. This is the later release by ProTech when they actually made it look fancy like this. I mean, look at that nice box. You know what we're going to play. It's going to be a flight simulator game. That's right. Let's see the other artwork we have for Airliner. When you first saw Airliner, it was here in Your Computer magazine, the December issue. Look at this. This game even made the cover. That's Airliner on the cover of the December issue of Your Computer in the United Kingdom. This is the 9th video game that we've typed in to play from Your Computer magazine. And it is going to be released later by ProTech, the second game we've seen by ProTech after Venture up to this point. If you play this one at some point by ProTech, it's going to be around 1983. So this box would be around 1983, but there is a release that was in Spain, where it's known as Pilote de Línea. So this is kind of like in 1982, you would have played either the type-in version of it or you played a Spanish version of it. So if we go through the box, there's the ad you would have seen by ProTech when it was released in a cassette case. Take off to touchdown. You're in control. A flight simulator on the ZX Spectrum. Yeah, I got to see that to believe it. If you flip to the right page in Your Computer, they just call it the ZX Spectrum Flight Simulator. And this is where you would type in to play this. This is the very first time we've seen a video game by Rod Hopkins. They have a really nice plane here, and they even show you what the screen looks like. It's a really good-looking screen for a type-in game from a magazine. It's pretty impressive. This is, when you bought the game, there was some instrument display panels and a reference card, and so this would help you fly the plane because you got to know what's going on. This is the map, by the way, of the area that you can fly in Airliner. For the later release, at least. And there's the cassette tape that we're going to pop into our Spectrum in 1983. Right now, we're typing in to play the game whenever it was. So I also have a homebrew manual here that explains a little bit of the game itself. Accurate simulation of flying characteristics of an airliner. It shows you how to load the game and then flying techniques. It explains how you're going to be playing this. Now, this version is all keyboard controlled, at least the one you typed in first. So it's a flight simulator that does not use a joystick. It kind of ruins the whole simulation experience if you don't have a joystick, in my opinion. But this homebrew manual gives you all the commands. This is very in-depth for a type-in free game. This is amazing. Which I wonder if people, when they bought the ProTech version in 1983, did they know they could just type in? I played both versions. They're identical. There's no difference to it. You could have just got it free if you spent the time to type it in. So this is explaining everything that you need. This is way too much for a type-in game as far as all the type-in games we've seen up to this point. That's really, really nice. All right, so we're going to go in and do our best to explain a little bit how the game works. Yeah, there's the ProTech release. Let's type in and play Airliner. Rod K. Hopkins, Your Computer first. At the beginning of December, or whenever you typed it in, 1982. All right, here we go. Here's the controls. So if we decide to say yes, we want to take off, we will start on the runway and then, take the plane off. If we say no, then we actually start in the air, and you can say what coordinates you want to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to take off the plane. I want to show you the experience of what it's like to be in flight in the midair. So I'm going to say no. We're not going to take off. And then the starting altitude, I want to start it at 1100. And then wind direction, I'm going to make our wind direction 0. I want no wind and no wind speed. Keep it simple. And then I want to define the location because I want to get in a position where I'm about to land the plane. So what beacon do we want? We want EDN. And what radial do we want? We want 70. And what heading do we want? Let's do 250. And then our DME is going to be 5. Now, if we did all this, it is going to place us in the air. We are currently in the air flying. I cannot tell a difference whether I'm on the land or in the air because we're basically completely obstructed with dials. That's all we have. And we've already played flight simulators here on Chronologically Gaming. So I'm just letting you know, we are currently in the air. We are flying airliner, the airliner game, and you can barely tell what's happening. And this is not usually the experience with flight simulators right now. This is the 21st flight simulator that we've seen on Chronologically Gaming. Some of the best that we've played on home computers would be the A2FS1 or eventually the one we just played, Microsoft Flight Simulator. That's the best one. Another one, good one is Jumbo Jet Pilot on the Atari home computer, or 747 Flight Simulator on the Dragon 32, and 747 Landing Simulator on the Atari home computer, just to name a few of them. This one is the third flight simulator we've seen on the ZX Spectrum so far. So I'm in midair, I'm flying. We've already played flight simulators on the ZX Spectrum. Night Flight was the other one, and Flight Simulation was the other one. All right, we have to get our gear going, get our gear down. At least they changed the view. And this is supposed to be the runway. So what you see flashing is the runway we're supposed to be leading down to. And I have to control all of this with the keyboard if I type the game in. So this one is the fourth flight simulator that we've typed in and showcased on Chronologically Gaming. Airplane on the VIC-20, Dead Stick Landing on the Atari home computer, and Jet Set on MS-DOS we've also typed into play. Now, this game apparently is available with a joystick in 1983 because the ProTech version had a joystick adapter, or ProTech had their own joystick adapter to play the game. Right now, the type-in version is only keyboard, but in 1983, you would be able to play this with joystick, but you have to have, apparently, the specific ProTech joystick to play the game. So I can't even get this game to work. There's no emulator that works with the ProTech adapter that came out at the time, but it was possible for you to play with joystick. So it's pretty impressive that on the Sinclair ZX Spectrum, you could have used a digital joystick. Again, that would be 1983. This is the fifth video game that we've seen on the ZX Spectrum that had the ability to use a digital joystick. Space Raiders, Star Warrior, Flight Simulation, and Planetoids. And so this game we're going to be seeing later on the Commodore 64 because by law, every single video game has to be released for the Commodore 64. I would still say of all the games we've seen, like I'm even turning, like I'm using the keyboard commands. I'm just letting you know, I can't tell a difference with me flying and me making a difference with the controls. It all looks the same to me, at least the way I'm using it now. So I'd say right now, if you want to play the best flight simulator on the Sinclair ZX Spectrum in December 1982, the year that the ZX Spectrum came out, Flight Simulation by Scion Software is the best right now. I would also say to rate this against everything that you could play on all home computers, obviously Microsoft Flight Simulator is king right now. It's brand new. The rating of this game against every other game for all home computers, I would put this somewhere between Pilot and Flight Simulation on the Sinclair ZX81. So if Flight Simulation for the ZX Spectrum is actually all right, but this one is somewhere between the Pilot one and Flight Simulation on the ZX81. So I want to call it bad, but it's very ambitious. But I really, part of me doesn't. I'm thinking somewhere between 2 and 2.5 stars for everything you could play up to this point. That would be between Pilot and Flight Simulation. So I'm looking in the chat. Jeremiah's actually thrown out a 2.5 star. I'm thinking the same. It's really cool to see a type-in game that turns into an actual released game, and I'll have to give it 2.5 stars. You would find some enjoyment because if you only had the ZX Spectrum, it would be a very limited base of flight simulation games you could play. And I see Curtis throwing out 2 to 2.5 too. Yeah, right. Adding half a point if it was a type-in. That's nice. Yeah, and there's a 2-ish, and then Dry Airline saying true as well for Airliner. Another video game that is a quick showcase like this, you don't really get the full experience. I'm giving you the first experience, but you'd have to spend a lot longer to dive your teeth into a flight simulation game on the Sinclair ZX Spectrum. Alright, that's where we got to put our video game playing on pause. Thanks so much everyone joining me here for the live show as we started the very first video games of December 1982. We have so many games to go before we get to the games released at some time in December 1982, and then the games released at some time in 1982. There's going to be lots and lots more games to come before we close out the year. So next time on Chronologically Gaming, we have more aliens to blow up and annihilate, and Hudson Soft tries a Star Trek variant. That's it for today, and like I always say, if you can be any Bond, be Sean Connery, the original Super Bond. Hey everybody, thanks for checking out the channel and joining me on my quest to play every single video game in order of release. We'll be streaming live every weekday at 9 p.m. Central, so join us and let us know if we missed any games along the way. This video would not be possible without Launchbox, RetroArch, and MAME. Tell all your friends there's some crazy guy named Chronologically Gaming trying to play every single video game. We have links down below that'll send you to places like our Discord and Patreon, and one that says all the video games we've ever played. If you go there, it's a list of everything, and you can click right to the game you want to see. Chronologically Gaming is the name to look for. We are Perpetually Retro, and we will catch you next time.